The world has become a field of ruins for the modern man. We live in an age where strength is mistaken for violence, leadership for oppression, and faith for weakness. What was once honor has become a joke, and what was once duty has turned into a burden. Men are losing themselves, not because they stopped fighting others, but because they stopped fighting themselves. The Templar never sought applause. He knelt before he drew his sword, for he knew the deadliest war was fought within his own soul. Today, the swords are called discipline, purpose, and faith. The question is, are you still worthy to wield them? You were taught to blame the world, the government, the economy, women, fate. But none of these are your true enemy. The real enemy wears your face. He lives in your hesitation, in your hunger for instant pleasure, in the cowardice of knowing what must be done, yet choosing comfort instead. The Templars understood. The external enemy is only a reflection of the internal one. That's why before the sword came fasting and silence, for a man who cannot rule himself cannot rule anything. The modern man, distracted, wants to change the world with a phone in his hand and chaos in his mind. But true war requires silence and discipline. It wasn't the world that weakened man. It was man who surrendered, on his knees before his own laziness. The Templars lived by a code. They did not fight for wealth, but for purpose. Their blood was the price of loyalty, and their word was worth more than gold. Before wearing the armor, they took a vow to renounce themselves and serve something greater. That was the essence the modern man has lost, the inner order that once gave meaning to existence. Today, man lives without a master, without hierarchy, without silence. He craves freedom, but fails to understand that freedom without discipline is slavery. He speaks of purpose, but fears the sacrifice it demands. He seeks power, yet ignores the obedience that sustains it. The Templar knew that power without purity is corruption. That's why he held his head high, not out of vanity, but out of a clean conscience. The ancient order taught that the body is a servant, not a master, that the spirit must command the flesh, that honor is obedience even when no one is watching. The Templar would rise before the sun, pray in silence, and fulfill his tasks as an offering, for he knew that every simple act could be a sword raised in the name of light. The modern man, on the other hand, wakes up tired from doing nothing. He feeds on distractions, seeks meaning in screens, and validation in likes. He lives surrounded by noise and calls it life. He has lost the silence that forges character. He has forgotten that the true warrior is formed in solitude. Yet the order still lives, not in castles nor temples, but in those few who refuse to fall with the world. Those who choose duty over desire, sacrifice over comfort, purpose over opinion. They do not need applause. They need only to hear that quiet voice whisper, "Take up your sword again. The war is not over." No man is born strong. He becomes strong. Strength does not come from muscle, but from mastery. Discipline is the forge where man is shaped, blow after blow, failure after failure. The Templar understood this. He did not wait for motivation. He waited for dawn. And when dawn came, it found him standing. Prayer, training, fasting, and silence, they were not empty rituals, but the blade that sharpened the spirit. Discipline is the invisible sword of the modern warrior. In a world of constant distraction, the one who stands firm becomes a rarity. Discipline is what keeps you moving when pleasure fades, when motivation disappears, when that voice in your head begs you to quit. The Templar did not live by instinct, but by command. His will was a tool, not a master. He knew the body lies, but the mission doesn't. Today, men flee from discomfort as if it were the enemy, yet it is discomfort that shapes them. Pain is the blacksmith of the soul. Every day you resist the impulse, complete a task without applause, train without posting, pray without showing. You are forging steel within yourself. Discipline is not rigidity. It is earned freedom, the difference between being dragged by life or leading it with strength. The Templar knew that he who masters his time masters his destiny. His hours were counted, his actions deliberate. There was no room for excess or maybe. Every act was a vow. Modern man, however, scatters himself across 1,000 paths and finishes none. He wants everything, but can't bear the weight of anything. Yet it is still possible to return to the forge, to what is essential. There is no light without fire, no character without trial. Discipline is the steel that holds the soul when the world collapses. And the one who remains standing when all others have fallen needs no explanation. The steel speaks for him. The longest war in history is fought inside a man's chest. No enemy's sword is more dangerous than his own mind. It's easy to fight what you can see: governments, crises, opponents. What's hard is facing the silence of your own conscience when it reminds you of what you failed to become. The Templar knew that before conquering the battlefield, he had to conquer his soul. He fasted not out of habit, but to remind himself he was not a slave to his appetite. He prayed not out of fear, but for focus. He fought not to survive, but to stay pure. He understood that the greatest victory is not over others, but over oneself. Modern man has forgotten this. He wages endless war against his temptations and desires, but without strategy, without armor. He wants to defeat anxiety while feeding on distraction. He wants purpose, but fears the silence that would reveal it. He seeks peace, yet can't bear to be alone with his own thoughts. The inner war is fought through small, unseen choices. When you choose not to answer the provocation, you win. When you resist the addiction, you win. When you pray even in exhaustion, you win. Each act of self-control is a strike against the enemy within. And though this war never ends, that's precisely what makes it worth fighting. The Templars called it the Holy Battle, not because they fought the sins of others, but their own. They knew that evil is not destroyed by hatred, but by mastery. That purity is a shield and work a sword. That prayer is the fortress of the spirit, a place no enemy can enter. The inner war is never won once and for all. It's fought every day, before the sun rises and long after the world has gone to sleep. And when a man conquers in silence, heaven itself applauds, even if the world never notices. The world has forgotten what honor means. Words hold little weight, commitments even less. Easy laughter has replaced respect, and the common man has become a parody of himself. Yet there are a few who do not bow, quiet, steady, unshaken, the last men of honor. The modern Templar wears no armor and carries no shield, but his principles are engraved on his soul. His code is simple yet unbreakable: faith, not as religion, but as conviction that there is a truth higher than his own will. Word, not spoken to impress, but kept as a promise. Purpose, not to be admired, but to serve. Endurance, not to prove strength, but to remain steadfast. Sacrifice, not to suffer, but to purify the ego. These are the pillars of the man who still dares to be whole. While the world celebrates chaos, he seeks order. While others scream for freedom, he chooses discipline. To be a man today is to rebel against decay. And, like the Templars of old, he knows, glory is not in victory, but in remaining incorruptible. Rebuilding the code is not about changing the world, it's about changing the man in the mirror. And that begins with the basics: body, mind, and spirit. Body, train. Physical pain is a reminder that you are still in command. Every drop of sweat is a silent prayer against weakness. Mind, read. Feed yourself with solid ideas, not disposable distractions. The man who doesn't master his thoughts will be mastered by them. Spirit, be still. Speak less, listen more, pray with sincerity. Silence is the ground where God speaks and the ego dies. Don't wait for motivation. It's fleeting. Build discipline. It's eternal. The modern Templar lives by invisible codes. He rises before dawn, keeps his word, protects what he loves, and seeks no recognition. He understands that every action is a brick in the fortress of character. The challenge is simple. Live 1 week as a Templar. No complaints, no excess, no excuses. And when that week ends, look at yourself. You may find that the warrior never died. He was merely asleep. A true man doesn't need to be seen. His presence itself brings order. While the world chases attention, he cultivates silence, for he knows that noise is the dwelling place of the weak. The modern Templar has learned that the sharpest sword is the word spoken with purpose, and the greatest power lies in mastering one's own impulse. To be a man today is to carry a burden with honor, without complaint, without audience. It is to lift your gaze, even wounded, and keep marching. The Templar does not fight for victory, he fights for purity. He knows the war only ends when the soul is at peace with what it has become. The world needs men again, not more voices, but examples. Men who cannot be bought, who do not bow, and who will not stay silent in the face of evil. Be one of them. Raise your sword. And remember, true strength lives in the silence of those who refuse to give up.